I almost was like, can we do 12:30? You know, but we're good. Our movie? Our movie, is that what you're talking about? It was Resolution? Resolution. Resolution, right. Actually, this is all you, man. Yeah, it's his idea. So.
When I was writing the script, I had this idea that I was writing a horror movie, something in the spirit of like a Spanish horror film where the character drama is front and center. But that's what I felt like I was doing initially. Obviously, there's a lot of humor in it as well, but I honestly didn't even see it as anything all that unique. It seemed like a bit of a kind of a creepy horror comedy. And Aaron and I never actually spoke about genre at all. And then when we got into it, all we really did was if the scene was scary, we made it as scary as possible. If the scene was funny, we made it as funny as possible. If it was a scene where the character drama was on display, we tried to make that drama as effective as possible. And then when it, as far as what you were saying about it seems very individual, we did actively discuss anytime we were making a choice and it felt a little too familiar, we didn't do that. And luckily that was always the choice that was most honest with the story.
Yeah, and this is something that's actually, because you mentioned being, so should I look at you or the camera? Either way, just look around. All right. But you mentioned being subversive, and I think that the film did turn out, kind of like a subversive film, but it was never like an act of rebellion against something we don't like. It was only just our expression of individuality. I mean, we love genre films, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like they're doing it wrong, let's do it right by doing these things differently. It was more just like, well, how are we going to make this a movie that we love, you know? So there were, but he mentioned there was not a lot of talk about genre, because that is a marketing term, but there was a lot of talk about tone. And the tone of the movie, there was a big arc of the tone of the movie, but, in the moment, the tone can shift, time to, one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, which I guess was kind of our risky element that we were, afraid of is not the right word. We were never really afraid to do it, but we were like, well, will this pay off? And in the test screenings, we did often get the notice, like, I'm having a lot of trouble, like, nailing down the tone of this movie and, like, what you guys are getting at when you do it. And we kind of loved that note, to be honest. We kind of liked it. And they said, a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but sometimes the answer would be, like, maybe add music or something like that. And of course, that wouldn't really have worked for our film, but I see what you mean, is, like, you want to be able to put your finger on it, and we're pretty darn happy about the fact that it's difficult to do so.
Yeah, so I think that really does convey a certain mythic quality, because once you go into that, you go into the oldest stories, even like the fundamentals of storytelling, that,
Joseph Campbell. Yeah, that kind of stuff. No, I know what you mean, and like one of the big things that Justin and I, we're two very different people with different tastes and stuff. But one of the things that is our through line in our work is like a I guess a mythic quality. And we're not talking about Joseph Campbell in like writing or anything like that. And that's not the only thing that's myth, but it's more just things that feel old and have like a texture to it, you know what I mean? Like something that's like the spice of life about it, and actually to go off of what you were saying about like the cave paintings and the red herrings really is when Justin and I were talking about it and going through the script, the film was, there were so many places that we knew the audience was going to go because they knew what kind they are thinking they are watching a certain type of film, and so a lot of the time we'll set that up really quick, maybe even have a laugh at his expense, and then make sure we throw it away. So I mean, even like the joke that's like, maybe you have split personalities and you're leaving each other gifts, and which is just used as a joke, but it's like,
I'm pretty sure you described like 6 indie thrillers in that one statement.
Right, exactly. And so we were trying to, make sure that like, hopefully the audience at that point wasn't thinking, man, maybe he's just crazy. Or if they were,
Great.
that's great, and then we throw that away, you know. So that was kind of what we were after with building up the mythos. Did we get too far off track? What are we doing?
Interesting because we read all of the reviews as they come out, and something that's been referenced in 2 or 3 reviews is a comparison between our film Resolution and David Lynch films. And it's very strange because Aaron and I had actually never seen a David Lynch film before making Resolution. It's one of those strange things. I've seen them since. Obviously, they're spectacular, but
Actually, would you say now that you've seen it, would you say that there is a good comparison? I just realized I never even asked you that. Like now that you've seen it, you're like, yeah, it is kind of Lynchian, or would you say like, no, it didn't really? They're a little off base.
I think that there is an odd tone in Resolution here and there that is similar to a David Lynch film, but Resolution is much more literal, I guess you say,
and much better.
I'm not sure that's true.
I'm just kidding.
But no, I think Resolution is much more literal, and I think that our humor is, well, and I mean this in the nicest way possible to us, it's a little more lowbrow. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean normally it's like
there is no. I don't think there's ever been a dick joke in a David Lynch
no
movie.
dick jokes.
We hit a few of those.
Yeah, we did. We got some. And you know, I mean, like a lot of the time, it's something like, you know, the review will say like it's like David Lynch meets and then like a filmmaker I've like never heard of, and it's one of those things where like, yeah, all right, we got indie cred. That's cool. You know, like, I don't know. So that's all we have to say about David Lynch.
It's so important to us that we get those months of rehearsal time before we go into principal photography, because it would be a deal breaker. Yeah,
like, even if we were getting like a big star, if they said no to rehearsal, I mean, obviously every situation is different, but if they said like, oh, we can't really do rehearsal time, we're like, then it's not. I mean, it's not going to work. You know, I mean, it's not because you're not good. It's just like chemistry is built, you know, it over time, and that's what you have to do. I mean, not just chemistry between actors, but chemistry between us.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that in that rehearsal time, you can really distill down the script to what is working the strongest, and you can cross out the stuff that isn't. That's a huge luxury of having rehearsal time. And you know, like Aaron was saying, we're not going to be able to do that with every movie, but hopefully as many as possible, because I think that's part of what I do feel like that's part of what defines us as a filmmaking team, are those really natural performances that don't feel scripted. And I think the only way you get that is having that rehearsal time.
And we'd like to say that was us, which hopefully it was partially us, but also that was the actors.
That was
being
Peter
amazing.
Salella's idea. That was his thing. It's like, I want the rehearsal time.
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation where we were just kind of talking about it, like I think 4 months beforehand, and just kind of I think we all went out to dinner at the Village or something like that, right? And that's when he's just like, yeah, let's do a lot of rehearsals, and we're like, oh, you know, how many should we do? And then we were like, we should do it every week or twice a week, you know, for months. And it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, that works great. And then what's so cool is, you know, having the writer in the room, and he's able to, you know, oh, that works, that doesn't work. Oh, that's really funny, let's not forget that, you know. And, you know, obviously we don't really have anyone to answer to, so we can just kind of make those changes and approve them, and they're done, you know.
The other amazing thing it does is that when you get to set and you're in principal photography, when you're that well rehearsed, and the actors start going, and you're always going like 3 or 4 takes. We got it. Let's move. Let's reset. Everyone else in the crew is entertained by what's happening.
Oh, Right.
And it just makes the vibe on set so much better, and it keeps this momentum going through the day. Where I mean, you're just burning through pages, and all of it's strong, and the actors aren't getting fatigued. It stays fresh. So yeah, another advantage of several months of rehearsal time.
I was talking with our sound mixer composer Dan Martinez on set, and I think I asked him because I had the camera and it was really heavy, and I said, but I look over at him and at least the camera's like redistributed through to my hips through a system, and it's relatively comfortable to have on even though it's heavy. But he's like holding a boom pole like this for these 5-minute long takes all the time, and I'm just like, man, you must get so tired. And he's like, no, actually, I'm honestly just really enjoy watching these guys. They're so engaging. I don't really mind take after take. It doesn't really bug me, And that's what's, like, again, a good testament to the actors, and it's a testament to a really nice way of making a film. Is to be able to get your boom operator excited about what's happening on screen for 5 takes. That's pretty cool,
Sometimes it felt like we were all in a small playhouse. Watching some really great theater.
Right, yeah.
Because again, the takes were sometimes longer than 5 minutes, and that was cool. Just keeping the whole crew entertained and everyone excited about the project.
Yeah, we felt like really fortunate when we were there. That was actually the phrase that we kept on using. It's like we're in the middle of the woods, just watching the world's best theater for like 15 days. You know what I mean? Like, and we recorded too, but we're watching like a really, really awesome play over and over and over, and these guys, and it changes up every time, especially because of Vinny and Pete like messing around with one another. So that was always fun.